Okay, wasn't that wonderful? What we heard from Jay this morning? How many of you heard a cousin's name mentioned? Everybody. You know, we are all cousins, right? Right. Okay. Well, it's my privilege to say a few words about Jack Baker. And first of all, Jack, I just want to thank you for all of the activities and special events that David and I have been privileged to be a part of because of you. We just think about the bus trips and all the different special things that Goingsnake did and with Trail of Tears. I first met Jack in, I think it was 97. And David and I graduated from NSU, moved away to teach school. We're gone for 35 years, moved back. And my dad had been going to Goingsnake meetings. And so he asked me if I wanted to go. Well, of course I did. And so he and I went to the Goingsnake meeting. And when I got home, David didn't go with us that day. And when I got home, David said, well, did you see anyone that you knew? Because we'd lived in Westville, Stillwell, both, prior to moving away to teach school. And I said, well, I saw a few people. And he said, so who did you see that you knew? And I said, well, I didn't see many people I knew, but Jack Baker is the president of Goingsnake. And David said, Jack Baker? He said, when I was doing my student teaching at Westville, there was a kid there named Jack Baker, and he would come to my door and before class and visit with me before class started. He said, is he real tall and skinny? And I said, well, he's tall. So that was in 1960 when Jack would have been a junior in high school. And David was doing his student teaching there. So just wonderful from that time until the present. We've been blessed to know you and to be able to participate in activities with you. Thank you for that.
Okay. Move this over here.
Sit down.
But
Sit down. Next up is that wonderful Anna Smith from South Carolina.
North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina.
There's a definite difference.
Eastern Public School.
and do you want a chair?
I can stand up, I just can't get up and down those steps. Well, tell him to listen to you. Say, Jack, listen. Jack, listen to me. I know that's very difficult for you. And the last time I was in Oklahoma, and gave a talk. It was at a church. Where is Charlie? And it's Charlie. It was at a church.
Park Hill Presbyterian.
Yeah, Park Hill Presbyterian. It was late in the afternoon. And, you know, I talk about women and, you know, Jack's interest in Native women is very limited. And I was talking and I looked down and Jack is sitting on the second row and he is sound asleep. He is all but snoring. So I just put his name right in that talk and he just jumped up like something had happened. Well, so I'm really glad that they've talked really nice about Jack because now I'm going to tell you stories. And I want to cover two things. I want to talk to you about, first of all, how Jack feels about people who are Cherokee or people who aren't Cherokee and claim to be Cherokee. Maybe first I'll talk about the other. I want to talk about Jack's driving. Now, have any of you ridden with Jack? If you have, raise your hand. Jack does multiple things when he drives. One of the things that he does a lot of is he talks to the drivers on the road that are not in his car. And he talks to them about what they should be doing and how they should be driving. And it upsets him terribly. You know, he should have really gotten in that other lane. Or didn't he know that that turn was coming up? So he is real funny about driving. One of the things that we really got him on, and Troy Wayne will remember this one, is I will go with Jack and we will go with the bike riders up until they cross out of the old Cherokee Nation. And we were doing that one June. And Jack would drive my car. At that time, my car was newer. It was a hybrid. It was a hybrid. That's kind of one of the important things. And Troy Wayne, remember this story? And we had just left wherever we were staying and we were going to Red Clay. Well, now Jack had been driving my car for 2 days. And when he drives your car, he takes over, right? You know, he just takes over the car and you just put your stuff in the back seat of it. Well, all of a sudden the car didn't go anymore. And Jack said, "What's wrong?" And then he said to me, "It's out of gas. This car's out of gas. Why did you let this car run out of gas?" Well, I hadn't been driving the car. So he says, "Well, how long will it run without gas?" And I said, "It doesn't." We're trying to get to the bike riders taken off. So we call Troy, and I can't remember who was with Troy. And they very kindly brought gas to us. But Jack is real funny about driving in cars and how far he can go. The last story I will tell you about Jack and his driving is that he often will stop at one of those service stations. The ones that are, you know, in North Carolina, that are on the way to Tahlequah, that are in the center of the road, kind of service station. Anyway, I was in North Carolina, but I had just left Oklahoma. And I'm watching the news and I see this horrible tornado in Oklahoma. And I can tell it's right about where Jack is. So I call Jack and Jack says, "Yep, I'm at."
It was the Grand Casino service station.
Grand Casino service station. And he's talking to me and said, "Yeah, I can see it. I can see the tornado." Now, y'all may be used to tornadoes, but I'm from North Carolina. We have hurricanes, but we don't have tornadoes. So then Jack says, "Well, wait a minute. I got to go in the bathroom. They're making everybody go in the bathroom." So they had taken everybody to the bathroom, but that's my driving tornado story about Jack, that he would just sit on the side of the road and watch us. But I think the most interesting story I can tell you is about meeting Jack. I'm Cherokee. My father was Cherokee. My mother was Moravian. My father was in the military. He was a pilot during the Second World War. My mother met him, but he was Cherokee. My Cherokee name is McCoy, my last name. So I go to college at 58. And after I go to college, I have really become obsessed with these Cherokee women who went to Salem, academy, the girls' boarding school, right before removal. Reggie's daughters, Ross's daughters, the Rogers daughters, they're just a ton of them. There are 14 of them. So I'm really interested in that and I'm working on it. And Dr. Purdue, Theta Purdue, had just come to Carolina. And I went down there and took every class she did on Cherokee women. So, and I knew I was Cherokee. Okay, that's kind of my backstory. But there was an event at the Van House. Does everybody know what the Van House is? If you don't, raise your hand. Okay. The Van House it was where a very wealthy Cherokee man lived in Georgia, and it still stands. And it's now a part of the Georgia Park System, and they do Native American interpretations. So they built a museum onto the Van House. Well, we had also discovered that the Moravians had a cemetery within sight of the Van House. And we had gotten that land donated to the Trust for Public Land, and it was just 1 acre. But we had done ground sounding radar through the Georgia State archaeologist, and we knew that the graves were there, and we knew who was there. And we knew these were Cherokee people that were at that mission. So we're getting ready to do what Moravians call the reconsecration of a graveyard. So this has been a cornfield, but now we're going to make it a graveyard. And the Trust for Public Land is going to take it, and then they're going to give it over to the Georgia State Department of Resources. I forgot my story. Now, okay. Okay, here we go. So a whole busload of Cherokee people come. Maribel's on that bus. I don't think there's anybody else in this room that was on that bus. Anyway, there were a wonderful group of Cherokee people that came. Was David on the bus? No, you weren't. Okay. So Chad Smith was chief, and in the reconsecration, Chad spoke and I spoke. I spoke about Chief Charles Hicks, who's buried there, and Chad Smith spoke. So afterwards, I mixed, I guess, with Maribel and Jack a little bit. I knew who they were, but I went home. And when I got home, I began getting telephone calls. And these telephone calls were from Jack Baker. Well, I didn't know Jack Baker very well, but he knew I was a Moravian. And he knew the Moravians had all these records about the Cherokees. So he would call me periodically and we would chat because Jack Baker wanted in the Moravian archives. Well, I was fascinated because, I had grown up in the East in the Moravian church away from my Cherokee family, and I was really fascinated about that. So I would talk to him. Well, now Jack gets a little uppity if you say to him, "Do you know I'm Cherokee and you're not Cherokee? Have y'all ever been around here?" That's happened. So Jack and I are talking on the telephone one night about the Moravian mission. And I said, "Well, Jack, do you know I'm Cherokee?" And there's this long silence. And you can hear the keys on his computer. That's because your computer keys were quiet, but you could hear them clicking. And he talked a little bit. Now, I'm just going to, I'll tell you a story in a minute that will make you know how upset he gets when you say I'm Cherokee and you're not. So I said, "Well," he said, "what's your mother's name?" He's asking me questions. I said, "Well, I've got these numbers." He said, "What numbers?" And I said, "Well, let me get them." And of course, they were my family roll numbers. I didn't know what they were. My family had just sent them to me. I give them to him. There's another long silence, and the computer keys continue to click. And then he says, "Well, you do have an interesting line of half-breeds." Mixed blood, excuse me, mixed bloods. My terminology is wrong. And just so you know, if you haven't been around us, you don't know this or not, and I think the Chief Hoskins loves it. We argue all the time and he corrects me incessantly, so just continue. So that began our relationship. Well, the next thing I knew, he and David Hampton have flown to Winston-Salem, and one is staying in an upstairs bedroom and one is staying in a downstairs bedroom, and they're in the Moravian Archives. And this was 20 years ago. So this is how the Cherokee Moravian books came about. And at that point in time, the Moravian Archives did not let you copy anything, nothing. So you went in and you typed and copied everything you could on a computer. But that began the relationship. So Jack was back and forth to Winston-Salem, and then I would come out here. I had already been to Oaks Indian Mission because it was connected to the Moravian Church until the 1900s, the late 1800s, early 1900s. So I'd been here before, so I knew a little bit, but I didn't know a lot about my family. Now, what was the other story I was going to tell?
The opening of the museum, the American Indian in DC, and our ride.
Okay, see, he knows what he did, so it's easy. Okay, remember I told you that he really has a hard time when people say, oh, I'm Cherokee. Well, we had stayed in this condo, and I can't even remember who else was with us, but it was Jack and I don't know if it was Patsy Egg. I can't remember who was with us. But we were riding the metro back into Washington. Jack's all dressed up, got his ribbon shirt on, because we're going to march with Cherokee Nation, Native American Museum in Washington. So Jack is sitting in front of me, and there's a man sitting beside of him, and I'm sitting behind Jack. And this man looks at him, very nice looking man, looks in a suit, looks really nice, and he says to Jack, you know, my family's Cherokee. And he began to tell Jack about, I don't know, what his family dropping off the trail, or I don't know, something like that. In Ohio. See, he remembers this. Trust me. I mean, you know how many years ago that was? And Jack goes, didn't happen. Didn't happen. And I'm thinking, can you just hush? Just hush. Anyway, those are my stories about Jack. I think our relationship has been wonderful. We have done so many great things together, and I'm really proud of the work he's done. The most recent thing that he helped me get accomplished is we did a plaque in Salem for the Cherokee girls who attended the school, and the chief came for that, and it was just really wonderful. So now there is a visible presence of Cherokee that were in and out of Salem before the removal, and that's it.
Feedback.
Okay, next up is Mary Bell Chase.
Who's next?
Mary Bell.
Okay,
So we can move that down.
that's back there. Need to get in here close to Mary Bell.
I appreciate that. Back and forth.
Yeah.
Can you see yourself okay?
Yes,
Okay.
such as it is.
You'll need to try to speak loud.
Okay. Do I begin now?
Go ahead.
Okay. About the year 19, I'd say 72, 73, somewhere along in there. In the Cherokee Advocate, now back then they called it the Advocate instead of the Phoenix. In the Cherokee Advocate, there appeared a series of articles written by a young man by the name of Jack Baker. And in these articles, he explained how to research and what to research, the different roles that were available, all the information that you want to know. Well, I knew nothing. I really knew nothing. I knew who my great grandparents were, but I didn't know any farther back than that. And I didn't know much about them either. But I was intrigued by the articles. And I read them and I read them over and over and over again. And I'm kind of dense. Sometimes I have to really study, before I can learn anything. But they were very interesting. And so I saved those articles. And then I would say in 1982, I saw a notice in the Tulsa paper that at the public library downtown, Jack Baker was to be a speaker. And I thought, I am going to go to that. So I told my husband, I said, I need to go to the library. Well, he didn't want to take me, but my sister-in-law and brother-in-law, they were willing to take me. So we went to the library and it was full of people. And it was a very interesting, he talked about his grandfather's allotment. And David was his sidekick, and he would use the overhead projector.
Turning transparencies matter now.
Yeah, transparencies. Those. But anyway, he did that. I didn't talk to David that night. I didn't meet him, but I went up to Jack after his talk and I told him how I enjoyed it. And I said, do you know of any books that are available on the Van family? And he said, no, but there should be. And he was really nice. And so anyway, there were other people waiting to talk to him. So that was the extent of our conversation. Well, then when was the joint council meeting?
84.
I never can remember that. In 1984, the Eastern Band of Cherokees and the Cherokee Nation in Oklahoma had a reunion. They hadn't been together in all those years since removal. And so they had a joint council meeting at Red Clay. And the governor, Lamar Alexander of Tennessee, he was there, which I thought that I was impressed by that the governor would be there at an event like that. And it was a happy time. It was everyone was, I think we were all ecstatic because our brethren, our people were once again together. And so anyway, Jack was there and I rode the bus that Dwayne King, who was director of the Cherokee Museum in Tahlequah, he got up a bus trip for those who wanted to go. So I took the bus and with the other people, we had a full bus and we drove to Red Clay, Tennessee. And so there were other people, Jack and some of the others, they drove themselves, and a lot of people did drive themselves. But I saw Jack near the pavilion there at Red Clay. And so I went up to him and said, I don't suppose you remember me. And I said, we talked a little bit. And I told him, I said, I have taken a subscription to the Cherokee, to the, oh, here goes my mind. The messenger, let's see, what is it?
Goingsnake Messenger.
Goingsnake Messenger. So I got the very first issue, the messenger, and then on forward. So I told him, I said, I've taken a subscription to that. And he said, well, good. And so we talked just a little bit, not much. But anyway, it was due to the articles that he wrote for the Cherokee Advocate that helped me so much, because I considered myself a Johnny come lately, if you know what that means, as far as research goes. But he and David, I consider them to be my mentors because they've been so helpful to me. And David has always been gracious and wanting to help me because he knows what a klutz I am, I think. But anyway, so that was just sort of a little bit of how I met Jack. And they helped me with my book when I did the Drennan roll. They helped me with that. Jack designed the cover, and David set up the program that allowed me to enter the names of the Cherokees that were on the roll in 1851. And so anyway, through the years, I have enjoyed all the bus trips that we took, because we took a lot of them. And we even took a couple of them around the area in Oklahoma where the Cherokees were, which I found to be very interesting. And I learned so much through the years. And it was just amazing because I had a love for it, for research. That's what I wanted to do. But I was married and I had kids and I had laundry to do, cooking to do, cleaning to do. So I couldn't really devote a lot of time, and it takes money. You've got to have a little money in order to begin something like that. And so my husband, he would be going to bed along about 8 or 9 o'clock, and I would stay up till midnight or 1 or 2 in the morning reading Cherokee books so I could learn. But Jack lit the fire that was in my belly because I was so intense on learning as much as I could. And David had a part in that too. And so anyway, through the years, so I've known Jack that long, and I couldn't ask for any better mentor. If I could just have my choice of anyone, I would choose him. And I just want you to know, if the powers that be hear of this meeting here today, and if they perhaps caught us on Zoom, I would like to say to them, please have a category for Cherokee research with your native Cherokee treasures during the Cherokee holiday. I think that needs to be a category, and that would give Jack and David a chance to perhaps through that get others inspired too. And I just believe that I wish that they would do it. And if I could talk to Chief Hoskins or whoever it is that holds the purse strings, please add a category to that national treasure. And but anyway, I hope that we have many more years. I'm failing in health, but I'm trying my best to take care of myself as best as I can. And I'll be 90 years old in December. And so I'm no spring chicken, as the saying goes. But anyway, and sometimes I forget, but I just want to keep on as long as I can. Just a little something that I can do, such as my charity moments that I started. I began quite a few years ago in the Tulsa community Cherokee organization. That's where I began my Cherokee moments. And so anyway, for any of you that are interested in research and learning more, you couldn't ask for better people than Jack and David, and I appreciate them so much. Thank you. How much do you owe me?
Our next speaker will be David Hampton, and I'm sure he knows the things none of the rest of us do about Jack.
I'm not gonna tell everything I know.
No, you wouldn't want to do that. You need to get in the picture.
Okay, am I right there?
Yeah.
Do I want the microphone? Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah.
I think I've probably known Jack longer in this room than anyone except maybe Glenita. Is that right? Okay. Jack and I first met in 1974. A lady at the Oklahoma Historical Society said, "Oh, you come in and do research. There's another young man that comes in here and does research, and I want to introduce you to him." And so she introduced me to Jack Baker. At the time, he said, when we first met, he said, what are you working on? I said, well, mainly I concentrate on doing Descendants of Nancy Ward. And it was the next year that I published my first book on Nancy Ward descendants. I asked Jack, what was he working on? He was working on the Chewy families, a book of Chewy families. And so I did my Nancy Ward book in 75, another one in 97, and another one in 2021. But the Chewy families are still waiting. Every decade, I bring that up to Jack. When are we going to see this book about the Chewy families that you were working on when I first met you? And he said, well, I'm still working on that. I said, yeah, it's only been 50 years. And I want to tell one other story. Back when Jack was auditor for Liberty Mutual, he used to come to Tulsa once every month or so, and we would have dinner, and sometimes we'd go somewhere to visit. And he took me over, I'm not sure what the nearest town would be, to visit some cousins of his. I think they were second cousins. And we went and talked to one gentleman who lived by himself. He had the original allotment papers for Jack's great-great-grandmother. When we left there, Jack said, oh, it was all I could do to keep from taking that away from him. I think you got it in later years, right?
Yeah.
He did. So it's virtuous. Anyway, he said, go down and visit my brother at the old house. So we drove down there. That house didn't have electricity. And I think there were 3 men in the yard who had had a little too much to drink, hooping and hollering in the yard. And we drove up and I said, oh, Jack, these people are drunk. We better not stay. He said, no, it'll be all right. So we get out of the car. We walk up in the dark to these people. And one of the men starts coming toward us. Who is this? Who are you? And pretty soon he gets pretty close and he goes, Jackie. I think I was the most relieved I ever was.
Yeah, just make sure you're in there, standing.
around to this way.
Okay.
I know I was gonna be on TV, I wore a better shirt. I screwed it up. Anyway, you all, while that's getting straight, I'm Troy Wayne Poteet. Right now, I'm the executive director of the Trail of Tears Association. Jack is the president for the last 25 years. One time, we had some new board members and they weren't Jack, after a number of years, his tolerance for a bunch of nonsense is pretty low. And every once in a while, he'll say, no, we're not going to do that. I don't recognize that motion. Which is, everybody who's been around for a while thinks that's a wonderful blessing. But we had a few, so somebody came, Jack wasn't there, and at that time, I was a judge. That we didn't have to work as hard as tribal council, and Jack was in the tribal council. So I had chaired a meeting. Well, somebody didn't know very much. I'll tell you, came to me after and said, well, what about next time? Maybe they like the way I chaired better because I indulged them with their nonsense. I gotta be careful here. They might still be around. Curtis. Anyway. Said, what about you being chair? I said, are you out of your I was a little more, I said, no, I don't think that'd be a very good idea. You understand, don't you, that Jack Baker represents us and advocates for preservation in the tribal council and in Oklahoma City in the legislature and with any federal agency. He knows all the Cherokee scholars. He's been promoting them and encouraging them since they were in high school, many of them. He's the person that mentors them, that reads their papers, that guides them, that suggests to them what maybe could we be working on, what area of research might we want to do. You can't replace that. You can't replace a lifetime of dedication. Now, I didn't know Jack Baker. He was in the tribal council then. I was in the 90s when Chief Man killed him. And, the council sets the budgets, and it wasn't much trouble when Wilma was chief because the money was straight, and she got 89% of the vote in my district when I ran for tribal council. She had a great mandate to govern. But anyway, from time to time, she'd fuss a little bit about, I just can't seem to get in tune with that board at the Cherokee Heritage Center, at the Cherokee Historical Society. I just can't seem to get them to work with me very well. And she kind of fretted about it, and she was pretty good at it. And then I went over there to run it for a while, and the scriptures say zeal without knowledge is not good. And so that wasn't one of me and Wilma's better projects, but it was sometime after that. And there was still just upheaval. And some of the other tribal council people and they turned around to me and said, well, now what do you know about that? And I said, well, they need to pay a little more attention. So Wilma was gone somewhere and the budget came up, and her budget's just got approved, pretty. But I said, let's just approve it except for the Heritage Center's appropriate. Maybe they'll pay attention. We had an election coming up, and Wilma didn't want any big upheaval. And I probably green as a goose my first term. So that's what we did. We just held their Wilma like they had a litter of kittens, y'all. It was something. So finally she mediated like she does. She told me one time, said, being the chief, said, it's like being the matriarch of a large family. Said, I don't know if a man's well suited to being chief or not. She was busy with her, but anyway. So she said, well, all right, y'all approve this and I'll get you an audience and you go over there and take some of these people. So we went over to see the people at the Heritage Center. And essentially what we said was, you know, you guys are kind of off track. There's Cherokees in the woods that make Kanochi. Make baskets, and they tell about the little people, and Cherokee culture's alive and well, and you don't have a clue about it. And the people coming home from California, they don't know anything about it. And we need to bring them together here, and we don't need any more maypoles and holiday Halloween spook trails. We need Cherokee culture over here, not a garden party. What we need is for y'all to get some people like that Jack Baker guy I keep hearing about, that takes all them bus trips and started that local historical society up north somewhere. And do you know, of course, they got their budget, and Wilma got calmed down and everything. Sam Ed Bush said, oh, everything will be all right by election time. We'll all be friends again. But they did listen to us, because they did get that Jack Baker guy, and they brought new life in there, and they got that thing squared away. And that was my first. And so I can't remember when I first saw Jack, but quickly I began to depend on him for advice and counsel. I had started the local historical society at Weber's Falls, and it kind of took off, and we had leaders. So one day I said, Jack, you've done this time. What do you do when all those little old ladies start bickering and fussing? I said, what do you do? Jack said, you don't do anything. I can't. Everybody silent. And that was some of the best advice I ever got, you know. Now let me see. I don't want to forget anything. This might be over.
Don't say anything bad.
Well, the only thing I tell one time, I was doing something. I was running the riverbed at the tribe. But anyway, somehow somebody from the Sons of the Confederacy contacted us, and they had some grave marking emblem that they bought at a garage sale in Kansas that belonged on General Wade's grave. The United Daughters of the Confederacy Pryor Creek chapter had put it on there in 1913, and some Yankees had stolen it and carried it up to Kansas. And a guy who's some Sons of Confederate veteran named General Lee called in. They had it, and they were going to bring it back, and the chief didn't want to mess with it. I think Jack was in the tribal council, and he didn't want to mess with it. The Daughters of the Confederacy were fussing because it belonged to them. And I said, well, what are y'all going to do with it? So the same thing the Sons are. I said, well, maybe y'all could all get together. So nobody would go for it today except me and Bill John Baker. And Miss Faulkner was head of the Daughters of the Confederacy, said, Troy, I just can't seem to interest the Chief Smith or Mr. Jack Baker in that. I just can't seem to interest them in any of our activities whatsoever. I said, Miss Faulkner, you just need to come to a grips with the reality that Jack Baker's just an old pen Indian, and he's not ever going to be no different. With that cheery thought, I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this.
Who else would like to speak? Looks like Billy Holt's taking over.
Okay, all right. David, I have you beat. Jack's been in my life since 1959, and I've always been his little pint-sized shadow. Sorry, Patrick. So far, I think I'm the winner. My family, Jack and my family were extremely close, and all of us cousins, we grew up like brothers and sisters. Our parents, their first round of kids, were pretty much born all during the wartime. And they stayed down at Chewy. And they were extremely close. Then came the second set, and I was the tail end of the second set. And since Jack was kind of the tail end of the first set, he by default got to be my babysitter because his mom and my mom were so close. I mean, they saw each other every day. If one didn't go to her house, the other one would be over at her house. And so Jack was the one that got stuck with me. And he wasn't the nicest babysitter either. But I'm not going to tell those stories because later on at decoration, one year, one of our family members made potato salad. And I took one look at it and I knew who made it. I went, oh, I'm not touching that. I know who made that. But Jack and Terry and Bill, they thought it was good and they all went for seconds. And they about died. And, and kind of like, when JFK died, where you were and everything like that. They each had stories of where they were, what was happening right the very second that they felt they were going to die right there on the spot. And I was kind of like, you shouldn't have eaten it. I told you we made it. You shouldn't have eaten it. But they survived, and I've always admired their survival skills of how they made it through that week. And Jack was on the road, and he survived. He pulled into a little roadside motel, and he lived there for about a week with a little hot pot. The clerk got him a hot pot and a couple of cans of soup, and that's what he survived. Bill was in the milk parlor at the time that it hit him. I didn't think, I don't think we were going to get him home. But there are so many different stories I could tell about all the different times that we've all been together, and all the stupid family stories and all the fun ones and all the sad ones and stuff. But if I tell any of those, he's going to make a special potato salad for me. So I'm just going to hold off on that and just say that he is, in my family, he is the treasured one out of all of us. He is the treasured one. And one of the reasons why is because he has been just the best son to his mom and dad, and the best brother that he could be to Kenny, and the best uncle to his niece and nephews, the best cousin to us all. He has just been that person who's always there for us, no matter what. He'll be off somewhere. He'll what do you want? I'm at a dinner. Oh, okay. Well, I just got to tell you this. Oh my gosh. Okay. And then we get it settled later. And he's just always been there for me, and I just love him so much. And our moms were just the best cooks I've ever known. And I've had people, the last few years, oh yeah, that's the best cook I ever knew. I'm like, no. You don't know. You didn't eat my mom's cooking. You didn't eat Dolores's cooking. I'd throw down with them. But he would always get his mom and his aunts cookware and stuff in the 60s and the 70s. Every Christmas he'd get them something. And by default, I've ended up with moms. And I grew up cooking with that, learning to cook. I was just pulling out one of those Pyrex bowls, one of those Corningware bowls the other week. And I was making a cake. And I was thinking about how I grew up listening to that, the mixer hitting the scraping the sides of that bowl. And then just the weight and the heft of the bowl, and how mom would hold the bowl and tell me, okay, this is how much you put in and all this stuff and everything like that. And so when I cook, I always think of my family. I think of everyone who's going on. And most of all, I always think of Jack. So thank you, Jack, for those wonderful memories and all the memories to come. Guess we'll make more of them. And we have something for you. So on behalf of the Goingsnake District Heritage Association.
Thank you.
And a little bit of appreciation.
Appreciate it. So this means to say such a small. Well, I feel very honored with all that y'all have said. I said, if my parents could have been here, my father probably would have felt very proud, and my mother would have believed it. So anyway, but it's been a privilege to have all of you as very dear friends over the years. And Carla, your mother, Maxine, dear friend, and Meg, and we've lost a lot of good Goingsnake members over the years that have been very dear friends, Betty Barker. So Virginia Van Perry, and others. So, but it's been a great time, and it's actually it's enriched my life. And I appreciate all that it's done for me. So thank you.
Okay, has everyone signed the guest book in the back? Okay, there should be a pin back there in case anybody hasn't, because we want to make sure we have everybody listed and stuff for today. And I make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a second? Okay, already a vote? All those in favor? Okay, we're adjourned. And oh yeah, anybody wanting food, you need to get some food.